8:45 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Romesh Piris and read by Mario Vijayawardena. The headlines. The Prime Minister engages in religious observances at the historic Jaya Shri Mahabodhi to invoke blessings on the country and the people. The government has spent over 68 million rupees on COVID-19 relief thus far. Maradana, Fort, Peta, Slave Island, Dam Street isolated from tomorrow. 25 police areas in Colombo and Gampaha lockdown to continue. Sri Lanka crosses the grim milestone of 17,000 COVID-19 cases. The Colombo Port returning to normal despite coronavirus hit. 80 special office trains in operation from tomorrow. In international news, US President Trump ignores deepening coronavirus crisis. Biden calls for urgent response. In sports, Formula One, Lewis Hamilton wins 7th Formula One title, equaling Michael Schumacher. The Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa engaged in religious observances held at the historic Jaya Shri Mahabodhi premises in Anuradhapura today to obtain blessings upon the country and its citizens. Thereafter, the Prime Minister met with the Atamasthana-adhipati, Venerable Dr. Pallegama Srinivasa Thero, and obtained his blessings. The Premier subsequently visited the Chief Prelate of the Ruwanvali Saya, Venerable Pallegama Hemaratana Thero, and paid homage to the Ruwanvali Saya. The Department of Government Information says the government has so far spent 68,640 million rupees to provide relief to people affected by the spread of the COVID-19 virus. The aforementioned sum had been allocated for the relief of the people from March 31st to November 13th, 2020. Meanwhile, the number of families who received the allowance of 5,000 rupees during the relevant period has exceeded 12.7 million. In addition, the expenditure incurred by the Ministry of Health on quarantine, health infrastructure and pharmaceutical services was 4,326 million rupees. The commander of the army, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, says more areas of the Colombo district will be under isolation orders from tomorrow. Accordingly, Maradana, Fort, Peta, Slave Island and Dam Street areas in the Colombo district will be declared isolated areas until further notice. The army chief said the order will be in effect from 5 a.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, the isolation status in 25 police areas in Colombo and Gampaha districts will continue from 5 a.m. tomorrow as those areas remain high-risk areas for COVID-19. Police spokesman DIG Ajit Rohan has said areas in the Colombo district and Kalania in the Gampaha district will be locked down from 5 a.m. tomorrow, while the isolation status in 19 other police areas in both districts will continue. Courts, Board of Investments and Export Development Board approved institutes and essential services located in the isolated areas in Colombo and Gampaha will be allowed to function despite the restriction. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Sri Lanka crossed the grim milestone of 17,000 COVID-19 cases with the detection of 544 positive patients thus far today. The Department of Government Information said COVID-19 infections accordingly increased to 17,127. The new cases were identified as associates of the Paliyagoda COVID-19 cluster. The Minuwangoda Paliyagoda cluster accordingly increased to 13,628. Meanwhile, 171 individuals who contracted COVID-19 recovered and were discharged during the past 24 hours, increasing recoveries to 11,495. 5,574 COVID-19 patients, including 3 foreign nationals, continue to receive treatment at 52 hospitals across the country, while 562 suspect cases remain under medical observation. Meanwhile, issuing a statement, the Department of Government Information confirmed that 5 coronavirus-linked deaths were reported today, increasing the country's COVID-19 death toll to 58. The Sri Lanka Railways says 80 special office train journeys have been scheduled for operations in the mornings and evenings from tomorrow. The Department of Railways said trains will not make stops in isolated areas with the exception of the Fort railway station. Accordingly, trains will not make stops in Maradana, Dematogoda, Kalaniya, Vanavasala, Enderamulla, Horape, Ragama, Valpola and Batuatta along the main railway line. Trains will also not make stops in Peralanda, Jayala, Tudalla, Kudahakapola, Kurana, Nigambo and Kattua along the Puttalama railway line. Along the Kalani Valley railway line, trains will not make stops in the Baseline and Kotta Road stations and the Secretariat Halt, Slave Island and the Angulana railway stations along the coastal railway line. All trains will commence and end a journey at the Colombo Port railway station. Police say 221 persons have been arrested for violating quarantine regulations. Speaking during a media briefing at the police headquarters, acting police media spokesman DIG Ajit Rohana said 22 individuals have been arrested for violating isolation orders. He said the perpetrators were identified through special drone surveillance carried out with the assistance of the Sri Lanka Air Force. The DIG said 120 persons have meanwhile been arrested for failing to wear face masks and maintaining social distance. That's local news.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Veda Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
The chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, General Daya Ratnayaka, said the operations at the Colombo Port will be steadily brought back to normal over the week with extra staff brought in after about 30% of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority container terminal workers were placed in quarantine. General Ratnayaka conveyed this in a statement and stated about 30% of the staff of the Jaya container terminal had to be quarantined at their homes and added that as a result, the day-to-day operations of the port too was affected to some degree. The chairman stated additional skilled staff were recruited from manpower agencies and as a result operations are gradually getting back to normal.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
And now in Watchlight, a helpline has been introduced for relatives of narcotics abusers to contact for assistance and guidance. The chairman of the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board, Dr. Laknath Velagadara, said the 1927 hotline has been made available in Sinhala, Tamil and English. The National Dangerous Drugs Control Board said the hotline 1927 has been introduced for counselling services as various issues are faced in accessing treatment and related services for drug dependents. That was Watchlight, and now in world news headlines. US President Trump ignores deepening coronavirus crisis, Biden calls for urgent response. Demonstrators turn backs on Thai king. Prince Charles to urge UK and Germany to reaffirm bond. US President-elect Joe Biden has spent these early days pleading with Americans to pay attention to the relentless surge of COVID-19, with deaths averaging more than 1,000 a day in the past week as President Donald Trump continues to ignore the deepening crisis and touts the promises of yet-to-be-approved vaccines as his panacea. The continuing power struggle between two men with diametrically different philosophies on how the US should handle the virus has left the nation rudderless at this critical moment, forced by Trump into a governing crisis as he refuses to let the transition to the Biden presidency proceed and pass on knowledge that could be critical to slowing the spread of the virus next year. Anti-government protesters in Thailand have turned their backs on a motorcade carrying King Maha Vajiralongkorn. Demonstrators gathered in central Bangkok in the latest of a series of mass protests that began in July. They are demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha and reforms of the monarchy. Protesters turned their backs as the king's motorcade drove by. They also gave a three-finger salute, a symbol of resistance to autocratic politics. The Prince of Wales will urge nations to stand up against intolerance and strive for a better tomorrow during a remembrance ceremony in Germany. In a speech on today, Prince Charles will also call on the UK and Germany to reaffirm their bond as they begin this new chapter in our long history. His wife Camilla is joining him on their first official overseas visit since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. It comes as post-Brexit trade talks are reaching their crucial final stages. And now the main points of the world news segment once again. US President Trump ignores deepening coronavirus crisis. Biden calls for urgent response. Demonstrators turn backs on Thai king. Prince Charles to urge UK and Germany to reaffirm bond. That was world news.
Development News is brought to you by...
My wife always sets a full lunch table even if it's just the two of us. She always expects people to drop by, like maybe the army.
In whatever we do, we Sri Lankans are always thinking of others. When we get Munchie Super Cream Crackers, they're not just for ourselves. Munchie Super Cream Cracker. Super kiyanne nikan newe.
Sri Lanka has banned the export of scrap iron, copper, aluminium, stainless steel, high-carbon steel, brass, zinc and copper wires in a bid to save them for domestic production, the Cabinet of Ministers has decided. The State Information Office said some scrap metal could be exported under recommendation of the Industrial Development Board and other related agencies. The Cabinet was told the export ban is being made to boost domestic production of industries that use the scrap as raw material. That was Development News.
When Tati bought a new family car, it wasn't just for the four of us.
It's a 10-seater van. Enough for friends and relatives too.
Mummy insisted on building an extra room in our new house.
Well, you never know who'll come to stay. We need more pillows too.
When I was studying late, Nangi would come by to help.
No, I don't know physics, but I do know you need a Munchie Super Cream Cracker.
In whatever we do, we Sri Lankans are always thinking of others.
When we get Munchie Super Cream Crackers, they're not just for ourselves.
Munchie Super Cream Cracker. Super kiyanne nikan newe.
And now in sports news, Formula One, Lewis Hamilton clinched a 7th World Championship and became the most successful racing driver ever with a masterful victory in the Turkish Grand Prix today. The Mercedes driver equaled Michael Schumacher's achievements in terms of titles after already surpassing the German's number of race wins last month. Victory at a treacherously wet and slippery Istanbul Park track in a topsy-turvy race was the 94th of the 35-year-old Brit's career. That was sports news.
Empower your dreams with NSV Wings. NSV Wings. Recharge the high goals.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Dialog Axiata plc, Sri Lanka's premier connectivity provider, on the request of the Ministry of Health, gifted a fully functional 10-bed intensive care unit to the Home Agama Base Hospital. This initiative forms a part of the company's ongoing commitment to empower the national healthcare efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. In April 2020, Dialog pledged a sum of 200 million rupees towards the upliftment of critical health infrastructure associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. That was business news.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The wait is over and it's time for you to experience happiness. It's time to remap the graph for success. It's time to rebuild your empire. It's time to initiate your entrepreneur dreams. Empower your dreams with NSV Wings. Get your 2-year personal loan for just 7% per annum, starting from 500,000 rupees to 10 million rupees. All you need is just one guarantee. NSV Wings. Recharge the high goals.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Hello, Puta, did you land already?
We're in transit and our flight got delayed.
How is Shani? Poor thing with her pregnancy.
Calm down, everything is sorted. Why, I have my LOLC World Card with me. We are at the VIP lounge.
LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
The 20th Sri Lanka Economic Summit organised by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce will be held on the 1st and the 2nd of December in a virtual format for the first time in its history. The theme of the summit is Roadmap for Takeoff, driving a people-centric economic revival. The country's foremost economic summit will see key policymakers, business leaders as well as the input of top international thought leaders and experts coming together to identify the steps in developing a roadmap for takeoff. That was economic news.
Congratulations on your promotion. Heard you gave a treat for everyone in your department yesterday.
Yeah.
When will be our treat, huh?
Well, how about today?
Oh no, I was just joking. We'll have a party with your new salary.
It's fine. I have my LOLC credit card with me. Let's go out today.
Those who spread goodness radiate happiness to everyone around them. Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
And now for the weather report. The Met Department says prevailing showery conditions over the island are expected to enhance to some extent during the next few days. Showers and thundershowers will occur at times in the northern, north central and eastern provinces. Showers and thundershowers will occur at several places in the evening. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa central and southern provinces. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. That was the weather report, and now the headlines of this news broadcast once again. The Prime Minister engages in religious observances at the historic Jayashri Mahabodhi to invoke blessings on the country and the people. The government has spent over 68 million rupees on COVID-19 relief so far. Maradana, Fort, Peta, Slave Island, Dam Street isolated from tomorrow. 25 police areas in Colombo and Gampaha lockdown to continue. Sri Lanka crosses the grim milestone of 17,000 COVID-19 cases. Colombo Port returning to normal despite coronavirus hit. 80 special office trains in operation from tomorrow. In international news, US President Trump ignores deepening coronavirus crisis. Biden calls for urgent response. In sports, Formula 1, Lewis Hamilton wins 7th Formula 1 title equaling Michael Schumacher.